So, do I have your permission to record?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, score. Thank you very much. So, on the phone with me now is Pablo from Catalonia, the region that wants to become independent from Spain. Did I say that correctly, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your background? How long are you born and raised in Catalonia? Just moved there? Have you been part of the movement? Have you not? What's your background?
Okay, I've been a teacher in Catalonia for 38 years. I was born here. I am 66 years old, and I've lived all my life in Catalonia, apart from some parts living outside Spain. But I am mainly a Catalan, and I've been working for Catalan independence along all my life, since the times of the dictatorship of Franco.
Wow, okay. So, tell us what's going on in Catalonia right now. I'd say the last 2 years things have gotten exciting.
Well, that's a good definition. We can say exciting. Yeah, well, for many years we have been what we call a community. Community means that we have special freedom from the rest of Spain. We have our own laws. We have our own parliament. It's like in the state in the United States, but we don't have the capacity to decide by ourselves in many questions. So we tried to put up a referendum and decide by ourselves if we wanted to be independent. Spain didn't allow that. So the day of the referendum, we were blocked from voting by the police, we were beaten, and we were sent to jail with many of our politicians. Maybe, as you know, our president right now is in prison, and many of the councillors are in prison too. So we haven't been allowed to exercise our right of determination in the last years. That's our situation until now.
So I gotta ask, let me review what I've seen, and then you tell me if I'm getting the story history incorrect. So, Catalonia says they want to have a peaceful vote to secede, and Spain says, well, our constitution doesn't allow that, you can't do that, and then Catalonia says, it's just a vote. We can have a vote. We're people. Our elected officials are willing to do this. The people we went through a democratic process to elect are willing to help us out do this. We're going to hold this vote. And if you want to call them symbolic, fine, but we're doing it anyways. And then it showed a majority of Catalonians supported secession. The Spanish government then sent troops into the area with fully armed automatic machine guns, stormed voting booths with SWAT teams in full SWAT gear, pointed guns at elected officials, confiscated ballots, cracked people's heads open. I remember seeing the elderly who had their heads broken open by police for voting and peacefully doing that, threatened to arrest all your leaders, and then also did arrest leaders. Am I getting that wrong, right? How close?
No, you are perfectly informed. The day of the voting, you know that Spain sent around 12,000 policemen and a paramilitary police, which is called the Guardia Civil, to prevent us from voting. And it was a really hard day. More than 2 million Catalans tried to vote that day, and we didn't. Even in a very hard situation, in some places, people were hardly beaten and they were prevented from voting. But mainly, we were able to do that. It was really a very hard day, but it's a good memory for many of us. It was the first time that we faced against the Spanish state. And it's been the beginning of all the situation we're having now. And I hope in some, maybe in one generation, now, we will be able to vote again. Right now, the situation doesn't allow this because Spain, and many of the big factories are here. So if we leave, they will not be able to pay health and all the things that Spain needs.
So, Catalonia, as I understand, has a distinct culture going back hundreds of years, maybe to the medieval times. They were also the region that was heavily against Franco, who took over Spain. So there's a cultural difference between Spain and Catalonia going back a while. On top of that, Catalonia is the best international trade part of Spain, and the economic driver, and is very innovative and has great money. So what I'm hearing is that Catalonia is seen as different than Spain. Catalonia pays federal income taxes. They don't get their fair amount of services, and they actually pay more into the system than they get. And in return for that, the government that you spend more money supporting sent people with guns to crack grandmothers' heads open. Am I getting that fair? Misinterpreting the situation, sir?
No, as before, you are perfectly informed. We send Spain around 70, more or less. When we send over taxes there, we get only 75%. And you know that in Spain we have a lot of facility, but a lot of advantages that you don't have. For example, here we have a health insurance, a health situation that allows us to have plenty security service for any situations. This is quite expensive, and this is the money we need. If we send all the money to Madrid and we only get 75%, this means that we have a lack of money for our services, and sometimes we need more than we have now, and especially in crisis time. Also, we are not the only ones in Spain that want to live. You have the Basque country, which is more or less like us. Many years ago, they chose maybe a bad way. They fight the state using violence. We have never done that. We have always tried to be in a very specific way, but the results are the same to them.
Peaceful.
About the culture, you said, we are here, we have a different culture, even we have a different language. We don't speak Spanish, we speak Catalan, which is a Latin. It's a Latin language too, but it's not like Spanish. Spanish people usually cannot understand us. And think, for example, that in our schools, we teach in Catalan, and Spanish is the second language. All Catalan people can understand Catalan. Maybe some of them, the people who came from different parts of Spain, are not able to speak it, but they can understand. And this is one of our characteristics. You know that languages is a part of culture, and the culture means that, well, language gives a corpus of ideas and a way of thinking. That's why we're pretty different. When many American people think of Spain, you think about the south of Spain. You think about bullfighting, about flamenco, and about these things. And we are absolutely out of those things. In fact, in Catalonia, bullfighting is forbidden. Yeah, we are quite different from the rest of Spain, as, for example, Basque people are different too. We represent two communities that want to live, but also we are not even the unique people. People from Galicia in the west of Spain are starting to fight to leave Spain too. So in some years, Spain will be like a puzzle with different parts being out if things go as we think they will go.
Okay. Well, let me ask you. This is a question I've been asking a lot of professors and scholars here, and I can't get them to really entertain the question. They just kind of seem to shy away. So here's the question. The Western world, Europe, America, goes around saying democracy. China, Russia, you're bad because you don't allow democracy. The will of the people. In fact, we saw Western leaders go and criticize China for its role in denying democracy to Hong Kong. As I understand, the Hong Kong people wanted to have a vote to talk about being independent from China. China said no. The Hong Kong people wanted to do that anyways. The Chinese government then sent in troops, had SWAT teams harass them. Leaders were jailed. More people were threatened. They cracked heads open. Nancy Pelosi, various Western leaders around the world condemned China for doing that. Now, my question is, that looks exactly like what Spain did to Catalonia, and I didn't see any Western leader criticize Spain for doing that, but then I saw them criticize China for what appeared to me to be the exact same thing. Am I getting this totally off, or is there some sort of weird double standard going on right now? Your opinion, sir.
The same as you. See, there is an important fact. We belong to European community. And European community is a club of people who has the same interests. And also, they think the same, they act the same as you. Follow their rules. Spain, and especially Catalonia, is a part that is very important for European economy. So they do not like the idea of losing a part of Europe. Imagine that if we get the independence, what will happen in Germany with Baviera, in France with Bretagne, in England, well, in different parts of Europe, people will start wishing to split from that club. So they are worried about their inner problems. They can decide that outside the democracy is failing Arabia, Saudi Arabia, China, and all these places, because it's not important, basically, economically for them. When you touch the economy, then you get a club of people with the same ideas, and they will start working and strongly together to defend their status. Europe right now is a club with a status, and they must keep that status going on. China is a good enemy because it's outside. But Catalonia is a bad enemy because it's inside. So they must be absolutely together in these problems.
So you do agree there's a double standard?
Of course, it's a double standard. It's a standard of interest. It's not about a double standard. It's classically, if something is on your interest, then you act. When it's in other part of the world which is not interesting, then you use your standard. It's something that forms part of politicians all around the world. You have good examples in your country too. Mr. Trump is, I think, in the same way.
Well, that's, yeah. So let me ask you another question. I'm somebody and I don't live in the West. I just live somewhere else in the world. And I'm seeing the West go on and on about democracy, and these countries are wrong with democracy, and they need to step up their democracy. And I'm thinking, wow, democracy is the right thing to do. I see the West go on and on about it. And then I see Spain act like communist China. And nobody in the West says anything. Now, I'm not in the West, and I'm deciding whether I'm going to embrace democracy internally or not. And I see people saying it's so great, but then I see those same people literally have a double standard, allow Chinese-style repression in a region of their own, and say nothing. Would I be wrong as an observer who's not from the West and say, well, maybe democracy isn't real, the West doesn't actually mean it, they're hypocrites, and maybe I, a citizen in Saudi Arabia or a repressive part of Africa, should really not listen to them and really just not listen to the idea of democracy, and maybe I should believe my government newscast that says they're all hypocrites and liars anyways, because I literally saw them do that with Catalonia and Spain. Thoughts, feelings, sir?
Yeah, I think that there is a really easy to understand. Democracy ends when economy starts. Then we have a different standard in Europe for everything that do not affect our economy in general. And we can be very democratic, at least, let's say superficially, but when you just dig a little inside, you discover that the democracies in Europe are not as real as they look. They are a democracy of interest. We must look democrat, but only when there is the smallest problem, things go wrong. Then is when you can see that, that this democracy is going down. It's a good face, it's a good image, but under this image appears the reality. And this reality comes exactly the same from United States, from Europe, from China, from everywhere. Maybe we are better hiding the foreigners. We show a good image. But apart from that, it's exactly think, for example, the King of Spain is a close friend of the King of Saudi Arabia. It means that we are a democracy and we are supporting a murderer. In fact, these days, it has been known in Spain that our king got $100 million as a special gift from Saudi Arabian king. Something related with a business with trains and these things. So there is a close relationship with these people. They just try to keep the image on the surface and they don't mind what's happening downstairs in the surface.
I remember they had the Arab Spring, where all these Arab countries were protesting and saying they want democracy. And the West was saying in Europe and America, great, people wanting democracy, that's awesome. And then there was this Arab country called Bahrain, Bahrain. And in Bahrain, the kingdom or area brutally repressed the protesters, jailed them, murdered some of them, and disappeared others. And America and the West said nothing. In fact, I believe the British royal family invited the leader of Bahrain after they brutally repressed their democratic protest to go to the official wedding of Kate and Will. So, again, a double standard. Before we ever heard of Catalonia. And the interesting thing about Bahrain is, guess where the largest amount of American ships is in the Middle East? Bahrain. So what a coincidence that when America and the West support Arab nations pursuing democracy, they don't support it when the country hosts a lot of their military. And in fact, they salute that leader for brutally repressing his people wanting democracy. This is the second instance that I've seen of a duplicitous double standard by the West. So the question to you is, again, I'm in Russia. And I'm wondering, Vladimir Putin goes on and says the West is hypocrites. Look, yes, we're kind of repressive, but I'm trying to make sure you people have jobs. And I'm sort of admitting I'm repressive to you. And you're right, it's not fully democratic, but let's look at them. Do you see how when their interests are concerned, they don't act democratic? And I'm a Russian voter, and I'm thinking, well, boy, I don't like Putin. And he is mean. And he doesn't follow the rules, and he doesn't give me democracy, and yeah, I do want democracy. But when he talks about a double standard, and that the West is just criticizing him to take him down and not actually because they want democracy, I have trouble saying you're wrong, Mr. Putin, because I do see these very clear double standards. Thoughts, feelings, sir?
Yeah, well, sometimes these double standards can be understood. If you live in Russia, we have big troubles, then you balance your opportunities. If you vote Putin, you are going to get something that maybe in other situations you will not get. This is happening in all the countries where democracy doesn't exist or is pressured by the government. Sometimes you need to survive, and when you need to survive, you can change your opinion even if you are aware you are doing it. If you need something and somebody says, promises, and you think that there is a little possibility of getting that, then you vote anybody it's put in front of you. This happens in Spain. Right now, thanks to some American politicians like Steve Bannon, I think it's a name.
Yeah.
It's one of the American ultra-right men.
Yes.
Now is in Europe trying to build up ultra-right parties, and here in Spain we are having one which has been directly sponsored, taught, and pushed by Steve Bannon. And this one is just promising what people expect to get from the state. They are coming up, going up in the votes. Think that these parties absolutely Frankist. I mean, they are the same ideas that Franco, the dictator we had in Spain for 45 years, have, and they are supporting these ideas. And in the last elections, they got 52 representatives in the parliament from 350. They are not the number one party. Right now are the third, but they are increasing the proportion of voters every year because people is fed up of everything. They want to get safety, security, and all these things. And these people with very short messages are giving exactly the answers to the questions they do. That's people is not worried about democracy. They are worried about the daily needs, especially when you have been in a crisis like we have had here. So parties and groups of people who give short answers to big questions, it doesn't matter if these answers are real or not. What is important is that they look real and possible. Then when they get the government, they see that maybe things do not work. But it's not important. They reach the positions, the government, the different statements in the country just with this kind of promises. Democracy has become something which is like in a theater. It's a big play. You see people acting. This acting is a democracy, but you know that somebody is writing the script before them. The play can be beautiful, but the script is written by somebody behind. Maybe you don't know that people, and they make you believe what they want and make you vote what they want. So democracy is a word that I'm sorry, but I think that it's losing its value.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let me save. Sorry. One last thing, real quick. Just got to transfer locations. So, when we look at people in America who, as I've said, I live in California. The majority of Americans outside of California voted for Donald Trump. So they say Hillary won the election. That's only because of California. You go outside of California, you pull California alone out, a majority of Americans said Donald Trump. Yeah, he's backsliding on democracy, but he's going to give us jobs. We see people in Brazil and Turkey and Czechoslovakia and Hungary and other countries in the Eastern Europe and Latin America who also are electing leaders who are pushing back on democracy, but they're promising economic freedom. Is the real threat from China and Russia saying authoritarianism is the way, or is it that people in democratic countries said, you're all hypocrites. You're all hypocrites. You don't actually mean it. And since you don't, we're just going to do what works for Brazilians to get jobs or Poland people to get jobs. How much is the West destroying the love of democracy itself and choosing someone outside of the West to blame instead?
Okay, democracy is a concept which I don't know exactly what it means. Democracy has been something that has been really present, especially in Europe and in the United States. But your idea of democracy is quite different from us. It's really difficult for us to understand why Trump is the president if he didn't get enough votes to win. I know that, that's something which is impossible in Europe. Then if you can think and understand that this is a fact, then you can understand that Americans are crazy and everything can happen. I know a lot of Californians. I have a lot of friends here and I move in California quite often. I come to California at least twice a year, so I know you perfectly. And I think you are the most alike people to Catalans in Europe. You think like us and you still, really, and still you have the idea of democracy. But in other parts, maybe also we think about the concept of democracy as something by itself. Many other people think that democracy is something that doesn't mean anything. The only important thing is the day by day. And the day by day, it's sometimes covered by dictators or by people who give strict rules. Democracy is a concept that maybe doesn't work in a short time. And in our society today, even in everything, it means something, everything must be quick and high speed. And high speed is promised by the dictators, people like Padro, Mr. Trump. Trump gives fantastic answers to the questions people ask. I'm thinking about people in Michigan that wanted to reopen a factory. He arrives there, he says, next year this factory will work. That's something that Democrat will not do because he knows it's not possible. This is what the
to help ensure that Catalonians have a right to vote on their government? What can people do to help Catalonia? Any websites you want to plug? Any web pages?
Okay, just being as informed as you are. You have shown me that you know perfectly. Yeah, that's it. Many of my friends in California know perfectly what's happening here, and they spread it to all the others. In fact, I like when they introduce me to their friends and say, he's Pep from Catalonia. They never say he's Pep from Spain. And they mean they understand and they know what we are. If people is really interested, we have a lot of webs which are in English for people who is outside Spain. And just keep your interest on us will be enough. It's a long, long fight and it's a long struggle, but at the end, I know, maybe not now, maybe not in 10 years, maybe next generation will be able to achieve it because it's a daily pressure. And a state like Spain cannot be pressing all the time as they are doing now. One day, they will decide that maybe it's better for everyone to make a referendum and decide which is the best for us. So it's a matter of time. Maybe not now, but it's just time. And if you keep speaking about us and telling the other people what's happening here, then it means that, well, we have won.
Okay, thank you so much, and I'll email you a copy of the interview when it's up. I would love to interview anybody else who's connected to Catalone, period. And I think I've shown you'll get a fair interview. So,
Okay.
any connections I want to